I'll go home now and get to work. Wow. What a sense of wonder. What a sense of possibilities. And to continue our dialogue, we've got a group of wonderful students from East Grand Rapids High School, and some of you will be saying, well, why East Grand Rapids High School? And it's as simple as when Dan called and asked if I would facilitate and moderate the session, I thought, well, it's in Grand Rapids. I need to think about a group of students there instead of trying to drive a group of students from Oakland County across the state. So I called my friend Sarah Schubel, who's been a mentor to me for many years, and said, would you be willing to help? And so Sarah has worked with colleagues at East Grand Rapids High School who have brought this great group of kids with us. And we're going to continue a portion because we've got about 40 minutes here, and then we're going to do a breakout session that continues to dive into some of these ideas and also be more interactive with you. So with that, would you help me welcome the students from East Grand Rapids High School?
So, something that I'm aspiring to be in the future, well, I'm really interested in politics and to continue making a difference. But I think as far as from a more short-term perspective, what I would like to do in high school is I want to get to know everyone I possibly can who comes from different experiences than I do. I'm really inspired in this pursuit because I read about this kid, I think it was Ankit Shah at the University of Pennsylvania. He was about to graduate. He realized he really didn't know that many people at UPenn. And so he started a thing called Tea Time where he invited completely random people to come sit down and have conversations with him. So basically, as I am close to exiting high school, I want to figure out how I can learn from as many of my peers as possible.
Great, thank you.
My name is Isabel, and I'm a senior. And in the future, I would like to probably go into photography, something with fashion photography or photojournalism. And something that I'm really trying to work on is I have dyslexia, and I'm trying to use my strengths instead of my weaknesses in school to help my academic career.
Thank you, Bella.
I'm Brendan, and something that I would like to be in the future is someone who can design products or experiences that can make people's lives easier and help fix problems in the world, which kind of goes hand in hand with what we're doing here today. And then something that I'm working on right now is slowing down with tasks at hand, because with the overabundance of technology today, I think it forces people to think they have to tackle so many different tasks at once. I think it's important to slow down and just focus on one thing at a time on your activity.
All right, and I'm Nicole. I'm a senior. One of my aspirations is to, I guess, become like an advocate for the youth commonwealth around my community, just giving them like an opportunity to learn in a fun way. I've been working with the Boys and Girls Club here for about a year, and just being able to give them opportunities to enjoy what they're doing. And to something I want to work at is not spreading myself so thin on the things I do, just focusing on one thing at a time and getting everything I can out of that rather than focusing on the next thing I have to be doing.
Thank you. And lastly?
My name is Troy, and one thing I really want to be is an organizer. I very much enjoy organizing, whether it be small groups, big groups, events, to the point where I really want to go into a career that involves that, something with organization, general management, something along those lines. For something that I really do need to work on is procrastination. I would have written more down on this, but I procrastinated. In actuality, though, it is a big flaw of mine in that because of my extracurricular activities, I have so much going that once I get to the point where I actually have time to do homework, other planning and stuff like that, I procrastinate because I'm tired.
Thank you to each of you for your introductions. And we wanted to just get a taste of these incredible students that we have with us today. And we wanted to start our panel discussion on reflecting on what Adora just shared with us. So I asked each of the students that as Adora was doing her presentation, I wanted them to think about her presentation and what stood out to each of them in what Adora shared, or what question might they ask Adora about the perspective by which she was sharing. So I'm going to give you a moment to kind of think about any of the notes you may have written about what stood out, and ask any of you to start lifting up. What stood out to you?
I actually have a point right off the bat that I noticed, and I realized that with teachers and superintendents, there's a lot of hesitancy towards independence of each individual student. And I feel like a large part of that is brought on from stress, in effect. That when students get the independence, myself included, to do, have free time to either do a project or sleep, majority of the time, sleep will win out. In the same aspect, that's why a lot of independence isn't given to students. Because overstressed students will not simply take independence for work or for time for their education, but instead they'll take it to catch up on the imbalance that has been created from overstressing.
Anyone else have a thought related to that whole notion of independence that Adora brought to the table?
I thought it was really cool how you talked about that school and how they worked with cutting the days in half and having kids do more creative things instead of just the English, math, and science. And I think that's really important because when students get to use their creativity, sometimes they find things that they don't know that they were talented at, and that can really come out and become a job even for some.
To go along with my colleague's point, I think it's important to find a balance of independence and guidance. You can't just, like Troy said, you can't give complete independence to students because they will sometimes choose to not be productive. But I think having a guidance like the project that Adora talked about, where they'll have half the day to do what they wish and then half the day to go through kind of formal education with the teachers, I think that's very important for education.
Yeah, as Brenda was saying, the independence of the students. For me personally, I've had the opportunity to take classes through the Career Tech Center here in Grand Rapids, and I'm enrolled into their health sciences program, and I've done this for the last 2 years now. And this has allowed me to not only take my core curriculum classes at East, but also to pursue a career in health. It's given me like job shadow opportunities. It has college level work, so it gives me, I have 2 days of college class and 2 days of like high school class, so it gives me an opportunity to pursue something I want to do and not be stuck sitting in a class where it will never necessarily apply to what I want to do later in life. So just being, just like she was saying, having that independence of the students. Like, I've had the opportunity to take my independence, but I'm still like guided with a teacher and still have instruction.
Well, thank you. I find it really interesting that from a person who spends most of his life trying to work with educators around quality instructional practices, that being a disciple of the work of John Hattie and all of his meta-analysis that's been done internationally about what are the attributes that truly make a difference in student achievement, that the #1 piece in research internationally that comes out are students to have a sense of self-directiveness and purpose to what they need to work on next. And that's the first thing that came to the minds of the colleagues sitting here based on what Adora shared. Pretty profound. They nailed the #1 item first in the international research. What else stood out from the presentation? Someone else's ideas that stood out.
I think it was interesting of obviously the problem that Adora addressed is the challenge of creating a school that people will want to go to. And I think some schools have a certain culture about them, like my school, East Grand Rapids, there's a culture of the majority of the kids, you play a sport and you focus on schoolwork, and that's your life. And I think some kids who see that culture and don't really want to be part of it feel like they're excluded, and in turn, they do not want to go to school, and they feel unmotivated, they feel like they're excluded. So I think it's important to find a way to work with those kids and make them motivated to be included in that.
What suggestions would any of you have for the educational leaders in the audience today, that if you're trying to think about providing opportunity to continue to include all students in ways that are meaningful to them, do you have any suggestions that any of you could offer?
For me, I'd say give the students an opportunity academically and extracurricularly. At our school, we have a lot of clubs and opportunities to be part of something bigger than just the academics of the school. We have Spanish club, French club, Harry Potter club. There's been yoga club this year. So just giving the students opportunities there, but academically, at our school, I've been able to go to this other class, but I play soccer, but soccer's not my life, and I like school and learning, but having to be able to learn something that I want to learn, that's not just the school, that East Grand Rapids school curriculum or our sports.
If you wanted to say something.
No, I guess I would say, in my own experience, when I was a sophomore, my school offered independent study options, where if you had kind of exceeded the availability of classes and you really, really were interested in a topic, then you could contact one of the teachers as an advisor. And I was really crushed my junior year to find out that that was no longer an option. There were too many students, they said, and so they could no longer do that. And I would say, I know that numbers of students are often increasing and that administrators have to deal with so many more people in the building, but don't cut down on opportunities if there are existing ones, if not then create them, but don't cut down on opportunities for independence and for students to pursue their interests simply because it's less efficient.
Thank you.
I agree with both of you in saying that extracurricular activities and more opportunity for each student breeds a lot more than just that opportunity in itself. Myself coming from football and also as well the drama department, I can kind of see both sides in that not everyone's going to fit into a set category, a set club, but those clubs give something that a lot of students look forward to at the end of the day, that a lot of kids couldn't do without. I know for a fact that specifically some kids would go to school just to get to those clubs, just because that is where they felt they were learning and bettering themselves. And I feel like that was a very important part of their education, is in those clubs and activities.
One of the other things I heard Adora mention that I'm curious about how you heard it was she talked briefly in her speech today about students having at least someone they trusted in school. So I'm curious if you could think about if there's someone in your building currently in high school or middle school or elementary that you felt you had a really strong trusting relationship with. And I'm less interested in you naming the person than possibly thinking about what were the attributes, the behaviors that both of you exhibited that created that trusting relationship that you would encourage us to try to nurture for all students in schools in some way, shape, or form.
I think that it's really important to have someone you can trust in school, because personally, all through school, the school that I go to is very well at academics, and I struggle at academics. And I was very worried about getting into colleges, and everyone was applying to Ivy League schools, and I was just like, I'm not going to go there and do that. And my guidance counselor was I trusted her a lot, because she told me, she's like, Isabel, you can do this. And she just gave me like hope. And a lot of students sometimes, you might not notice, but sometimes just the little things that you can say to students can go a long way and help them.
Isabel, could you describe some of the attributes that you saw her doing that gave you the sense that she was helping to build hope for you? What did she do? What did she say?
Well, she gave me a lot of opportunities. She said you can look into like gap years, and she said to look at your strengths, and my strengths are arts and photography. And so I looked at photography schools and different programs that I could go into. And she also, there was just like different graphs that she showed me that a lot of students, she showed me where a lot of students have excelled in certain areas of school, which is really helpful.
Great, thank you. Please.
I had an English teacher, and she I feel like I trust her the most in school, and I'm closest with her. And because the things that she did that led to this was, I think the first week of school, after class, she just asked me, like, so how did I do today, Brendan? I was kind of taken aback at first. It was, took me by surprise, but then I kind of shared my ideas with how I thought her lesson went, and her willingness to learn from me and her students and relate to the students led to me trusting her, and in turn me getting excited to go to class and learn from her, and that was a really cool experience that I went through.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts?
For me, not only my health teacher, but also my gov teacher junior year. It was really awesome. Actually, one of the reasons I'm super interested in politics now is because we got to do a campaign in that class, and I was, running on various platforms, so that was fun. But I think that he really had a sense of humor that conveyed, I think, not taking himself too seriously, which is something that students tend to become very wary of. If they see a teacher who's extraordinarily serious 100% of the time, kind of has that armor up or a mask up. And he was also, I think, really honest about his perceptions of education, of how even though he continually won the best teacher award at my school, that students would elect him to that position, he would say that he didn't think that his teaching was perfect, or that that the situation that we were in was perfect, and he would say what he thought could be improved and stuff. And that honesty, I think it was the first time I'd seen it in so many of the adults that I knew at my school, and I really admired that.
Thank you. Anything else? Please.
Just a quick emphasis on what Laura said. It really makes all the difference when a teacher is honest and real with someone. On the level of personalization of a curriculum for each student and bringing it down so it's not a word but a book, it's someone talking to you specifically as a person, really makes a big difference. And that was the main point for several teachers that have really made a difference in my educational career, is that they've been honest and they've personalized about it.
And part of the reason that I brought that one up after hearing Adora bring it up in the presentation again, my harping at you today, and you'll probably hear John Hattie's name come from me a few more times, in being a student of that work and looking at, again, the most comprehensive set of research we as educators have out there internationally to look at. It is trust in relationships and the quality of having at least a single person that students believe and trust in school outside of their family and in addition to their family. That really is one of the other high-yield strategies that needs to take place. And we know from other research that attribute is critically important for our underserved students from a variety of groups. So as we're trying to think about strategies to lift the voice up and to help attend to achievement issues, the humanity piece of what was addressed in there is a hugely critical piece. And I just wanted to look that one up a little further and acknowledge each of you for the partnerships you've built in building trust with an adult, because it's a two-way exchange. It is not a one-way street. So one of the other things that we talked about, and I asked the students to think about as they were listening to Adora, is this notion of student leadership in schools and student voice. And it's often portrayed by the top students in schools when we think about what currently exists in many of our buildings. So I'm curious your thought. Do you think that students that aren't just in the top ought to be heard in schools? And if so, what suggestions on how to make that happen in real terms could you offer to the educational leaders with us today?
Okay, I would say definitely yes. The students who aren't considered the top students should be heard and listened to for their opinion on what they think should be different about the school, or what just what should happen. To make these leadership opportunities available for them, I just remember specifically one assembly we had. It wasn't necessarily a way for the students to teach the faculty how they want to be taught. It was just a time for the students to be heard on different struggles they've had, or if they were a new student coming into the school. And from that one assembly, I've seen these different students become more confident in their schoolwork or in their social life, and they haven't become a top student, but they've become more engaged with the school and been more accepting of where they are and who they're with.
Thank you. Any other examples that might come to mind?
I think the main thing, just to touch on like I said here, is to let these students know that those opportunities are available. Because, like I said before, students may think that because they're not a top student or in the top part of the culture of the school that they shouldn't and don't have any chance to say what they think or do what they want to do. So letting these opportunities be known to them may motivate them to share their beliefs and do what they want to do in school.
One example that I could share with you that Superintendent's Association in Oakland County, which has a collaborative project going on in the county to help raise achievement for all students while working towards closing gaps, they've organized a student leadership conference that's held in collaboration with one of the universities. And the students that the buildings bring to the conference are not your typical student leaders. What we ask the buildings to look at for in their buildings are students that have the potential, the possibility, the wondering as to what leadership could be. And they come to the conference as a group of not your typical people that we would stereotype as leaders, spend the day learning with and from each other, and many of the breakout sessions are now, at this point, we're at the point 7 years into this, we have students that are leading many of the breakout sessions for students. And they leave with an intentional project they're going to go back and implement on behalf of their school for the needs of the culture and climate and learning in their school. Of the 28 districts in our county, I wouldn't begin to say that all 28 are doing it well and effectively. But I can tell you there's a handful of them that are doing some pretty profound things. And it's growing. And the students continue to take more and more ownership and leadership of that process. And they are not our typical stereotype leaders. So it's an area that we're trying to learn to grow into that gets at this part that Adora had asked us to consider. Any other thoughts that come up before we move on? Okay. One of the other areas that Adora talked about is this whole notion of having students be a part and participation of what their ideal school could look like. So this is the chance for each of you to bring that creativity out and think about what attributes. If you project it out 10 years out, because part of what we talked about is we're kind of doing playing it forward routine here. And what I ask the students to do is think about whatever they're going to share with you today as educational leaders, they may not reap the rewards, but they're helping all of us think about all the students that are younger than themselves. What would you hope to see 5 years down the road that might be different in schools than what is currently there? What would that ideal school begin to look like 10 years out? What would change for what currently is in place?
I would love to see more integration with the local community, because I think that the way a lot of high schools have been built historically, at least, and definitely in my own experience, is sort of set aside. You see the huge parking lot, or there's a huge lawn, some way that is saying this is like a buffer zone around the rest of the city or the neighborhood or wherever it might be. And I think that truly good schools don't isolate students from the world, to kind of reference that independent project quote. They allow students the chance to go out into the community and be student leaders and experience service really firsthand. So that would be one thing I would say, because I know that, for example, like when I was searching for colleges, that was one attribute that I really looked for, was integration with a community and not too much of this very insular living in a bubble.
So more involvement with the community. What else would be different? What suggestions would you offer?
For me, a large part of what I would like to see is a move away from standardization. And as standardization is easier for tests and such, it does not fit all students in the fact that there is a large part of my education has been learned outside of school, whether it be through teachers, through extracurricular activity coaches, or parents and other adults that have taught me. I would like to see more opportunity for a setting outside of the classroom. Somewhere, say I volunteer at my Performing Arts Center, and I've learned more about technology, more about directing, more about managing than I have in some of the classes that I've had, in the classroom, of course. I think for a large part of that, though, it's important to find a balance in that. There's a large part that you do learn in school that is needed, and that is needed in the classroom setting, but there is an even larger part, I believe, outside and real world experience that is sometimes excluded from curriculums.
To go up, sure.